We just wanted to give a bit of a briefing on some of the things that have been unfolding since the State of the Nation address, but more particularly about an initiative that we would like to announce today. And in the State of the Nation address, I said that one of the central priorities of our government is going to be how we can, in a very significant way, increase investment in our economy, because we felt that this is a necessary condition for growth in the South African economy, but more particularly on how we can create jobs on a scale which will significantly reduce the current levels of unemployment. I think it is common cause that the low levels of growth that we have been going through over many years can be ascribed to a number of reasons, and some of those have been the low growth, or the lack of investment, and the others would be ascribed to a question of confidence in our economy and new investment in productive sectors of the economy. For us is therefore vital to our efforts to reduce poverty and inequality. And investment in our economy has declined, as we all know, in recent years, and Treasury tells us that total fixed investment in the economy stood at 24% of GDP in 2008. It has declined to lower levels of up to 19% of GDP up to last year. Now, when we drafted the National Development Plan under my neighbor sitting here, Trevor Manuel, we said that we need to increase investment, fixed investment in our economy to up to 30% of GDP by 2030. Now, this needs to be a determined journey that we need to take, and this has been, the lack of investment has also been accompanied by low business confidence, poor growth in employment, and economic conditions in the country keep on changing. And we are now determined to work with all social partners to seize the opportunities that we see opening up. Right now, we're beginning to see some green shoots, and those are the green shoots that we want to take advantage of. And in line with our commitment in the State of the Nation address, we said that we want to make a major push this year to encourage significant new investment in the economy. And today we want to launch an initiative what some would say is a very ambitious initiative to drive new investment in our economy. And this drive will culminate, as I said in the State of the Nation address, with the holding of an investment conference, which we would like to hold around August or September. The investment conference, in which we will want to involve domestic as well as international investors, is not only intended to be a mere talk shop. We would like to have an investment conference of a different type, so that we don't spend a lot of time just talking about the investment climate. Would like this investment conference to be a forum where we present investment deals that would have been concluded, and to provide also a platform for would-be investors to seek, who are coming to our country to seek out investment opportunities. And we would also like the conference to produce results that can be quantified and be realized. We're therefore aiming, through this investment conference, to raise an amount of $100 billion of new investment in the next 5 years. Now, if you look at 5 years, that would amount to about $20 billion a year, up to the 5-year period, which would be the $100 billion. Now, this clearly will be a mixture, as far as our intentions go, of local investment as well as foreign direct investment. Now, given the current rates of investment, this is an ambitious, but we believe that it is realizable and that we will want to give a real push to go out there and raise this money. Because if we do, we will be able to inject a significant boost to our economy. Now, in preparation for the investment conference, I have decided to appoint 4 special envoys on investment who will spend the next few months engaging both domestic and foreign investors on the opportunities that exist in our country. Now, these are people with valuable experience in the world of business, in the world of investment and finance, and they are people also who have extensive networks across a number of major markets. I'm therefore pleased and grateful that the following South Africans have agreed to our invitation to be the President's special envoys on investment. Trevor Manuel, who is known to all of us as former Minister of Finance, is going to be my investment envoy. Mr. Mcebisi Jonas, former Deputy Minister. Mr. Jaco Marie, Chairman of Liberty and former CEO of Standard Bank. And the person who is not here, who couldn't join us, is Phumzile Langeni. She's the chairperson of AfroPlus. Now, what task am I giving them? I've asked these wonderful South Africans to travel across the world, to trawl the world, and indeed to go from would-be investor to would-be investor in our own country, and with a view of encouraging would-be investors to come and invest in our economy. And I'd like them to travel the world and go through a number of countries on the African continent. Africa has not really, the rest of the African continent that is, has not really come forth to invest in our economy, and would like to make a drive and invite African investors to come to the South African economy and invest here. We've had a few, but we believe that we now need to drive this whole process of inviting them to come and invest in our economy. I'd like them to travel to Asia, travel as many countries as possible, touch a number of would-be investors, and invite them to come to the Middle East, to Europe, and to the Americas. Now, this is born out of the interest that we have been seeing in a number of markets. When I spoke to President Xi Jinping of China through his envoy, they said there are quite a number of companies in China that want to come and invest here. When I spoke to a number of other leaders in the Middle East, they said there are quite a number of people who would like to come and invest here. When I kept speaking to a number of business people in our own market, they said, President, with the climate that has now emerged, we believe that the country is now ready to attract quite a lot of investments. And we, as companies operating in this market, are also prepared to put shoulder to wheel and invest in this market. Now, we would therefore like our special investment envoys to touch base with would-be investors and to go out there and campaign for investments to come to our country. And I felt that what we really needed to do is not just to talk about we would like investments to come to South Africa. I felt that we actually need to go out there and attract investors and talk to them. When I was in business, I learned the concept of you build a book, an investment book, if you're going to list a company. So you go and campaign and talk to a number of would-be investors in your company and you build the investment book. Now, this is what we're seeking to do with our country. Would like to build an investment book and go to as many would-be investors as possible and get them to sign up so that we, possibly by August, September, we have indicative offers, indicative interest of people who would like to come and invest in our country. Now, the envoys would be able to do that for us. Now, this is a broad push by government to advance economic integration also, the African continent, and that is why we're also focusing on Africa and invite a number of billionaires who are on the African continent and ask them to come and invest in our country. And this, obviously, following the signing of the Africa Free Trade Area Agreement, we believe that that begins to make Africa much more interesting, and we should be able to attract quite a number of investors on the African continent. I'm also pleased to announce the appointment of Ms. Trudy Makaya as my economic advisor, and Ms. Trudy Makaya is sitting right here in front of us. Now, she's going to work with the envoys, and as my economic advisor, she's going to be responsible for coordinating the work of these special envoys and working with them. And we will be, as a starter, we are going to be embarking, as we go for this ambitious goal, we're going to be embarking on a number of initiatives. One of those initiatives is the trip that I'm undertaking now to London. We're going to be having a road show with a number of investors and showcasing our country to them. And this is the kickstart of this process of getting would-be investors interested in us. Mr. Jaco Marie will accompany me on this trip. The other envoys will be accompanying me on other trips that we will undertake throughout a number of countries. Now, this idea of, if you like, precursors to our investment conference was presented to me by Mr. Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, who called me soon after SONA and said, Mr. President, I want to congratulate you, but I've also noticed that in your State of the Nation address, you want to have an investment conference. And he said, I want to bring a number of business people to South Africa so that we kickstart this process moving towards your investment conference. And I grabbed the idea and I said, Mr. Schwab, I welcome that. So we're going to have a round table of a number of business people from a number of countries in the world. That's one of the precursors to the investment conference that we are going to have. Now, it's great and wonderful to have the support of a person or an institution like the World Economic Forum. Later, Mr. Trevor Manuel will be going to a structure of the World Economic Forum, and now as an investment envoy, he's now going to have a greater opportunity, representing the president, representing the country, to go and punt for investments in our country, almost in a formal way, where he'll be speaking on behalf of South Africa and say, we're inviting you to come to South Africa, to come and look at our country, to come and invest. Now, in London, I will also, apart from the roadshow meeting that I spoke to you about, I'll also be participating in the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. As part of that, there is a business forum that often takes place, and we're going to use that platform as well to begin to carry on with this process of inviting investors, because we want to build this book of investment of almost $100 billion over the next 5 years. And where would we want this money to be invested? We want the money to be invested in various sectors of our economy. There are a number of sectors that give rise to a number of opportunities, and we therefore want to use the various opportunities we're going to have. I envisage that we will want to have another similar conference, possibly in Asia, maybe in Hong Kong or Beijing, where we'll showcase the country. We'll want to hold one possibly in Nairobi or in Accra, Western Africa. We'll probably want to hold another one in the Americas, in New York, and maybe in South America, in Brazil. So this is going to represent a major push on our side to try and attract investment to our country. So we will be touching base with several major global companies, briefing them also on recent developments in the country, and also our assessment of the economic challenges and risks and opportunities that exist in our country. And we will be communicating a clear and consistent message that South Africa is an investment destination with significant unrealized potential. Some of our fundamental strengths are well known. We have a thriving democracy, an independent judiciary, and strong institutions. We have an advanced and diverse economy, sophisticated and well-regulated financial sector, and extensive transport, telecommunications, and energy infrastructure. We also have a youthful population, an improving basic education system, and significantly expanded higher education enrollment. In other words, despite the challenges that we still have, we're working hard to build our skills base. We will brief investors on the measures we are undertaking to improve the general investment environment in our country. Further to the announcements we made at the State of the Nation address, we're making progress in stabilizing strategic state-owned enterprises, and all of us can see that nearly on a weekly basis, quite a lot of changes are beginning to take place in our state-owned enterprises. Ministers are buckling down and they're beginning to deal with the challenges that have been facing us in the past few years. We've improving the functioning of key institutions like SARS. A commission of inquiry will soon be appointed, which I spoke about. And we're finalizing a new mining charter through consultation with all stakeholders. Minister of Mineral Resources spent the weekend talking to communities, consulting on the mining charter. We're processing legislation on the implementation of the national minimum wage. And we've launched the Youth Employment Service to increase the employability of first-time job seekers. So in addition, work is underway to realize and streamline investment regulations and reduce the cost of establishing and running businesses. These pre-conference engagements that we are going to have are also going to give us an opportunity to hear some of the concerns of our own domestic investors, would-be investors, and they'll also give us an opportunity to engage, as I will tomorrow, with investors and would-be investors in London, to listen to what their concerns are and to see what we can do to make the investment climate in our country much more conducive. And through the various initiatives that we're going to put on the table, I believe they will see that South Africa has become a very special and interesting investment space, because we are also going to be utilizing industrial incentives to attract investors to our country. The special economic zones and local procurement requirement system is also going to be spruced up and improved. And we aim to increase investment also in manufacturing and a number of other sectors. We are creating more opportunities for new market entrants through our competition policy, which Minister Patel is working on, the procurement measures that we want to take, and expanded support to small and medium enterprises. Now, after several difficult years, South Africa is emerging as an increasingly investment destination. We are encouraged by the growth in business confidence over the last few months, the strengthened rand and improved growth estimates. And we also welcome the recent assessment that was issued by Goldman Sachs that South Africa is at the top of the list of potential candidates to be the next big emerging market story of 2018. It notes that the growth cycle is picking up after an earlier downturn in investment growth. It says that improved confidence is likely to lead to a better outlook for growth and investment. Now, this is also confirmed by the South African Economic Update released this month by the World Bank. While the economy's performance is improving, it notes that higher growth will require ambitious structural policies. It estimates that a successful conclusion of the mining charter, which we are attending to, for example, could increase investment in the sector by 25%. And therefore, one can see that we are on point. We are on the right course. It is for these reasons that we are embarking on this very ambitious investment drive alongside the implementation of the necessary economic reforms. A number of people have also said that maybe you are shortchanging yourself by limiting it to $100 billion only, which could be possibly just $50 billion of foreign direct investment over the next 5 years. Because in past years, you have hit almost $8.3 billion, I think it was in the year 2013. And couldn't you do better? It is possible that we could do better, but we are modest because we want to overachieve. The task we now have is to ensure that this becomes an era of investment. It becomes an era of injecting growth in our economy, and also a time when we address the issues that have been holding the country back in as far as economic growth is concerned, where we actively address some of the key problems. And right now, we are in a space where we believe that we are giving attention to those issues that have been putting the brakes on our economy, and we therefore can get on world stages with an ambitious plan of trying to attract investments of up to $100 billion. I think we are on the right course, and with the investment envoys that we've appointed, I believe with their knowledge, with their experience, with their networks, with their knowledge of our country and investments, we will be better positioned. And the reason for putting together a top team like this is to enable us to go out like a pack of hunting lions, where we have a pack of these lions going out to hunt down those investments for us. So we are unleashing this pack of lions, as they will be working also with Trudy Makaya, and indeed working together with various other departments within the state. We are going to be coordinating all this. Now, we're putting our eye on this investment conference that I spoke about in Sona. And let me say that a number of other countries do the same thing. They hold investment conferences and attract billions and billions of dollars. Now, we're not the first in class to do so. Maybe we are the first in class by having this really special pack of lions and one lioness going out to hunt down investments for our country. So my view is that this is a great moment for us. We're looking forward with a great deal of confidence. We're going out there to go and attract investments to come to our country and showcasing the country and getting the world to be once again enthusiastic about South Africa, to be interested in South Africa. And as we go around, we're finding that a number of people are interested in us now. When Minister Patel and I were in Davos, I don't know who else was there, Maria Ramos was there, we found that we just couldn't have a spare moment to talk to the various people who wanted to come to our country. One other interesting business person that I met at Davos was Jack Ma, who runs Alibaba. And I asked Jack Ma, I said, Jack Ma, when are you coming to South Africa? He said, I'll come anytime. I said, come in August. Because when he comes here, I want to say to Jack Ma, my friend, I want you to start ordering some of the things that you sell on your major online platform of Alibaba from South Africa. And then we begin to build factories. We begin to make the products that our factories and our business people can sell on Alibaba. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite excited about this initiative today because a pack of investment lions are going to hunt down those investments that we so sorely need in our market. And I'd like you to wish them well as the lions go hunting. Thank you very much.